journey to work in the morning, it may be a little bit drab, but again, not much rain around. Apart from the odd little bit of drizzle here and there, most places will again have a dry day. And look at this, the cloud tends to break up as we go through the morning. So northern England, much of Wales, the Midlands should turn sunnier by lunchtime. May take a little longer for the sun to come out across the south of England, but even here I'm hopeful it will do by the middle of the afternoon. Temperatures about average for the time of year, feeling fresh again on those North Sea coasts with a brisk wind, but in the sunshine elsewhere, feeling pleasant enough. Temperatures dropping sharply though through the evening, and it will be a chilly start to Thursday. Again, many places dry and bright with some spells of sunshine, just a bit more cloud bubbling up as we go through the day. But generally a fine day to come on Thursday too, and the fine weather set to persist really even into the weekend. A lot of dry weather and turning just a touch warmer as well, although the mornings will still be chilly.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 2 weeks left to see how you could win your mortgage or rent paid for a whole year. That's a cash lump sum equivalent to 12 of your monthly mortgage or rent payments, right up to a whopping £20,000. Plus, we'll add an extra £5,000 on top for good measure. Make sure you don't miss out as lines close on the 29th of August. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB15 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 29th of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. It's me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, on State of the Nation. Tonight, baton disease is a cruel hereditary condition that cuts children's lives short. Well, we now learn that the life-saving drug capable of saving children's lives will not be provided on the NHS, following a decision by NICE not to fund it. I'll be speaking to the lady spearheading the campaign to reverse this terrible decision. Residents of Epping are celebrating tonight after winning their High Court case regarding the migrant hotel in their town. As a result, asylum seekers are now set to be removed from the Bell Hotel. Is this a victory for the people? Rachel Reeves, not surprisingly, wants to take more of your money under the guise of tax cuts, this time replacing one property tax with another. Problem with this socialist government is it's rapidly running out of other people's money. Also tonight, US officials are claiming the UK government has backtracked on its backdoor security mandate on Apple products. Is this a victory for privacy? State of the Nation starts now. I'll also be joined by my most pugnacious panel, the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie, and the journalist and broadcaster, Michael Crick. As ever, I want to hear your views, mailmog@gbnews.com, but now it's your favourite time of the day, the News Bulletin with Sam Francis.
Jacob, thank you, and good evening to you. Just after 8 o'clock, well, the top story first to Essex, where asylum seekers are to be removed from the Bell Hotel in Epping. That's after the council there won a temporary High Court injunction. All migrants must leave by the 12th of September, despite a failed last-minute bid from the Home Office to have the case dismissed. The ruling follows weeks of protests sparked after a man living at the hotel was charged with sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl, which he denies. Locals tonight are divided, some celebrating outside the hotel, calling it a victory for the town, while others are warning the decision only kicks the can down the road. Council leader Chris Whitbread has welcomed the judgment, saying tensions risked irreparable harm. We're also hearing the lawyers for the Home Secretary and hotel owners plan to appeal that judgment. In other news, Sir Keir Starmer has co-chaired a high-level meeting on security guarantees for Ukraine. It comes as Donald Trump is ruling out sending US troops on the ground if a peace deal is reached. Instead, the president suggests the United States could help by air, warning that Vladimir Putin would face a rough situation if he refuses to cooperate in the peace process. It comes as reports suggest Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky have agreed to a one-on-one meeting within the next 2 weeks, and Switzerland is signalling they are ready to host. Well, after yesterday's Oval Office talks, Zelensky called the discussions significant, saying Ukraine is already working on concrete guarantees.
After this productive meeting with the President and then with all our colleagues, the partners, we confirmed that we are ready for a trilateral meeting. And if Russia proposed to President of the United States bilateral, and then we will see the result of bilateral, and then it can be the trilateral. So I said always, so Ukraine will never stop on the way to peace, and we are ready for any kind of formats, but on the level of leaders.
Sir Keir Starmer has also said the so-called coalition of the willing has made real progress and will continue talks with Washington in the days ahead.
Today's meeting was good and constructive, and there was a real sense of unity between the European leaders that were there and President Trump and President Zelensky. These were the two outcomes that were the most important coming out of today. They're positive outcomes. There was real sense of unity. We've made real progress today.
Leader of the Lib Dems, Ed Davey, has also given his thoughts and told us here at GB News the UK needs to increase support to Ukraine.
Still fear that Trump is driven by a desire to get a deal with President Putin and is putting that above the long-term interests of Ukraine and of European security. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a deal that Ukraine would willingly sign up to. I think the best response that Britain could make would be to strengthen the hand of Zelensky at negotiations by offering to increase our support for Ukraine, for example, with British Typhoon jet fighters. I think we have to make sure that Ukraine goes into those negotiations in the strongest possible way.
Sir Ed Davey there speaking to us earlier today. Well, in other news tonight, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is weighing up a major shake-up of property tax. She's considering a new levy on homes worth more than £500,000, which could replace stamp duty on owner-occupied properties. The move comes as the Treasury is exploring fresh ways to raise revenue while still keeping Labour's pledge to protect the state pension triple lock. And Constance Martin is seeking permission to appeal against her conviction for the gross negligence manslaughter of her baby daughter, Victoria. The Court of Appeal has confirmed tonight an application's been lodged after Martin and her partner, Mark Gordon, were found guilty in July. The judge has accused them of both trying to sabotage and manipulate their retrial. Victoria's young body was discovered in a shopping bag in Brighton in 2023 after the couple went on the run for more than 50 days to avoid social services. The pair are due to be sentenced on the 15th of September. You're up to date with the top stories this hour. I'll be back with you at 9 o'clock. Now, though, it's over to Jacob.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back to State of the Nation. I'm no fan of the quangocracy, but I would not normally accuse it of killing children. But that is what NICE, the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, has decided to do. It is as if the chief executive, like the hanging judge of old, has put on the black cap and decreed death. This all relates to baton disease, which is a rare neurodegenerative condition affecting children, typically starting around the age of 2. Children progressively lose abilities such as walking and talking, and average life expectancy is 6 to 12 years. Brineura is a treatment that can slow the progression. It almost brings it to a halt. Eligible children will continue to deteriorate without access to the drug. And we've now learned that NICE, the National Institute, has announced that it will not be recommending the drug for use on the NHS on the basis of cost-effectiveness after the 31st of December this year. Brineura will only be available to children already receiving the treatment. Newly diagnosed children with this fatal disease after that will not be eligible. The NICE guidance itself accepts, and this is really important, that clinical trials have shown the drug to be effective. I quote, "The clinical trial evidence shows that Brineura slows progression of CLN2. Patient experts and clinical experts have also explained that cilapanase alpha is a transformative treatment, but there is not much evidence about how well it works in the long term. NICE's own research gave Brineura its maximum rating of 3 as the drug's estimated benefits exceed the model used by NICE. This means that children could have a better chance for a healthy life, and of course it also buys time for further research. The logic of not funding the drug is cost effectiveness. So let's look at the cost. The NICE guidance puts treatment at a cost of £522,782 per patient per annum. A handful of children are diagnosed with baton disease each year in the UK, so the cost at most would be a few £1,000,000. But let's look at the dreadful waste in this system. Think of NICE itself, £76 million just to run NICE. And then, in the NHS, it spent a staggering £250 million over the last 5 years in England on procedures for transgender, non-binary and gender-questioning patients. In the first 10 months of 2024-25, it spent another £88 million on this. And it won't spend a few million saving children's lives. Healthcare tourism, these are foreigners using our system, people coming here from overseas to use the NHS, is believed to cost somewhere between £110 million and £280 million per year. Treatment provided to foreign visitors is estimated at around £1.8 billion a year, the majority of which is not recovered by the NHS. The NHS's own website says current estimates put NHS annual spending on these dreadful, stupid, wasteful diversity roles at £40 million. This is so outrageous. Tens of millions of pounds are being spent unnecessarily, wasted, put down the drain, and we're not finding money for children who will die. Without this drug, children will simply die. NICE is sentencing them to death. To deny the drug is to deny children the right to life they deserve. The Baton Disease Family Association says the baton community needs full, unrestricted approval of Brineura for all current and future children with CLN2, without cut-off dates and without arbitrary conditions. We will be appealing this decision and urging NICE to correct this course. Well, as ever, let me know your views, but don't just send me your views, make your views known, starting off with mailmog@gbnews.com. I'm joined now by the Chief Executive of the Baton Disease Family Association, Liz Brownnutt. Liz, thank you very much for coming in to join me. It is hard to see why NICE, with all this waste in the NHS, seems to have no care for some of the sickest children in our country.
It's a terrible situation that we're in. To have this going forward, this inequity in access, to be diagnosed with such a deadly disease and to be told that there is a treatment available, but you're not going to be able to access it. It feels like we've made so many strides forward in this treatment and providing treatments for ultra-rare disease such as CLN2, and now we're going to be going backwards. And, you know, it creates a scenario as well where a child will be diagnosed on the 31st of December and they may be a little progressed in the disease, but they will have permanent access for life. And maybe a few days later, their younger sibling may be diagnosed in a much better health state and they will be condemned to death. And how can we put a family through that situation?
And it is such a terrible disease and awful for the parents to watch, because the baby develops normally and learns to walk and talk, and then at the age of about 2 begins to lose the abilities that it's just developed, and then with this very short life expectancy. But Brignora basically stops the disease in its tracks. We don't know if that goes on forever, and there are problems with eyesight, but that with other symptoms, it basically brings it to a halt.
It does, and it's a transformative treatment. As you say, it's proven to slow down the progression of the disease, the onset of disability, improve symptoms and quality of life. So it enables children to live longer and to live better. But the earlier in the disease that it's diagnosed for children to start treatment, the more effective it is. And we've got a couple of children in the UK who were diagnosed pre-symptomatically because their older sibling received a diagnosis, because, of course, we don't have newborn screening. And these children are changing the trajectory of the disease and carving their own path.
And this is really important, isn't it? Because it's a genetic disease. So if a sibling has it, the chance of having it is much higher. And that the one thing, as you're pointing out, that's absolutely known is the earlier the treatment starts, the better the prognosis. The drug doesn't reverse any of the effects of Batten disease. It brings it to a halt.
It does. And if we had a newborn screening programme, I don't think we'd be sitting here discussing this issue, because children would be getting picked up earlier, able to start straight away and having a much better chance in life.
And the drug is expensive, but the number of children each year is really very small, and this is what seems to me to be so unfair, that nobody can pretend that the NHS spends money well, and yet with all that waste, it can't look after some of the sickest children.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. I mean, we're talking about 3 to 6 children being diagnosed across the whole of the UK each year, which, when you think about it, doesn't have a huge impact on the NHS budget. But we also know that the NHS has substantial buying power and they have the ability to negotiate lower prices for medicines with manufacturers. But I think, above all things, we need to remember that these are children that we're talking about, and this is their lives, and it's about their quality of life, and there shouldn't ever be a price tag on that.
No, and what would you suggest people do? How can they help you in your campaign to try and influence the government to overturn this decision?
Well, we just need to raise awareness of what's happening. It feels impossible that both sides, NICE and the company, have not been able to find common ground over the last few months when discussing future diagnosed children. We are holding both parties accountable, and we're urging them to come together and find a solution, a way forward, because there's children's lives at stake.
And every day after the 31st of December, when children don't receive it, is a day when they may deteriorate. So it's very important that it's sorted out before then.
Yeah, children don't have time on their side. It's precious. The time is so precious.
The last time, prior to the decision in 2019 to fund the drug, there was quite a lot of cross-party support. I worked with a number of Labour MPs to try and encourage. Actually, it was then Matt Hancock, who was the Health Secretary, who was extremely sympathetic, very supportive of trying to get the funding. NICE has always been the obstacle. Have you got any sense that any groupings are forming to try and campaign once again to get the funding for this drug?
Yeah, we do have a group of very supportive MPs. We came down to Parliament in March and our very good supporter, Lord Ian Botham, organised a parliamentary drop-in, and he invited the MPs of the families to come and speak to us. So we've had good support from them, but we're calling on them now, and we're calling on the Health Secretary, because he has the power to reverse this decision. So we're absolutely needing all the support we can get.
And it is frustrating when a quango, a bureaucracy that is completely unaccountable, can just make these decisions without having any form of representation.
It's very difficult, and it's a very difficult process, actually, and I think that's what's letting us down. It's the way that they appraise these medicines for rare diseases through the highly specialised technology process. That's what's penalising us and letting us down. And
it doesn't really seem to work because they have a certain amount that they will allocate per quality of life indicator. But this drug bursts through all their modelling of the quality of life improvements. So it just gets to the maximum level and they say, oh, we can't have any more than that. So they've sort of warped the system so that it almost can't come up with the answer that is positive. And so they need to apply some intelligence to it rather than just going by some system.
Yeah, I agree. It's all about the long-term benefits and the cost effectiveness. And when you've got such a small patient population, that's impossible to measure. Even after 5 years of a managed access agreement, which was hampered by COVID as well.
Yes.
There is that issue too. So, yeah, it feels very unfair.
Well, it's very hard to have long-term information on a new drug.
It is, yeah, absolutely.
Liz, thank you so much for joining me. I wish you every success in this campaign. I think it's really important. We've had some rights reply. The NICE guidance states the new evidence included data from clinical trials and from people having treatment in the NHS in England. This evidence suggested that Brineura slows disease progression. It's good news, but although it's an effective treatment, there is uncertainty about how effective it will be after long-term use. Based on the proposed price of the medicine, the preferred cost-effectiveness estimates were substantially above the range NICE considers an acceptable use of resources for an highly specialised technology. Professor Jonathan Benja, the NICE Chief Medical Officer and Deputy CEO, said, we are deeply disappointed that the company decided not to enter into commercial negotiations with the NHS England, having reached an agreement that maintains continued access for patients who were started on treatment during the managed access progress. The company's decision means the committee was not presented with a cost-effective price that would have allowed newly diagnosed children to benefit from this treatment. Well, what I'd say to him is that he's killing children if he doesn't pay for it, and he should pull his finger out. Thank you very much, but also thank you particularly to Liz. Up next, it's a complete change of subject. The residents of Epping are celebrating tonight after winning their High Court case regarding the migrant hotel in their town. As a result, asylum seekers are now set to be removed from the Bell Hotel. They could be coming to a hotel near you. Is this a victory for the people?
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
That stark warning comes as the Justice Secretary approves the trial of Taser stun guns ahead of the likely rollout to male prisons.
Well, it follows violent attacks on officers in recent months by two of the country's most dangerous and notorious inmates. Mark White reports.
At this security facility, a mock scenario of the type of violence that's all too common within our prisons. But as the Justice Secretary looks on, those playing the role of perpetrators are about to face a new tactic. Tasers are a very familiar option within frontline policing. But until now, these weapons have not been available to help protect the men and women dealing with some of the country's most violent offenders. That's all about to change.
Drop that weapon, do it now!
As the government begins the trials process ahead of the likely rollout of Taser within male prisons.
I know that staff have been crying out for tasers to be authorised for use across the adult male estate, and I was very pleased to be able to sign off on this trial. It will run over the summer period, and it's designed to make sure that we can learn lessons about the use of tasers within a custodial environment, which is different to how tasers are normally used.
It was shocking attacks on prison officers, alleged to have been carried out by two of the country's most notorious inmates, that focus national attention on the real dangers faced by prison staff.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Epping Forest District Council has been granted a temporary High Court injunction blocking asylum seekers from being housed at the Bell Hotel in Epping. Asylum seekers will be removed from the Bell Hotel in the next few weeks after the local council won a temporary injunction at the High Court. Demonstrators have been gathering outside the hotel for weeks. Now they'll be going there with champagne, I think, to protest at the decision to use the establishment to house undocumented, that is to say, illegal migrants. Is this a sign of things to come or a capitulation to public pressure? Well, I'm joined now by my most pugnacious panel, the former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie, and the journalist and broadcaster, Michael Crick. Well, Kelvin, they could be coming to an hotel near you instead.
Yes. Jolly good, and actually remarkable, really, a remarkable decision. And so there's two things. I don't think we should get too carried away by it, because I suspect that the government will move heaven and earth now to do something which they didn't do, because they only showed any interest in it last night, the Home Office, and suddenly they were caught short. So it serves them right. It will boost the idea that protest works, which is something which has been there's been a question mark about how protest works. This is a fantastic victory for these people, and it's a fantastic victory. At the beginning, there was quite a lot of violence outside that hotel, and now there is no violence, and there are a load of women there who are representing, I think, the beating heart of the nation, saying we don't want those people there. The number that really shocked me about this was that there are 32,000 migrants staying in hotels dotted all over the country. What an enormous number.
But that's the thing. These ones will have to be moved somewhere else.
Yes.
Unless this judgment sets a precedent for other hotels, and then where are they going to go? Where are these 32,000 people going to be put?
Well, I imagine there's some landlords rubbing their hands right now on that basis. Look, I totally accept that, but that is also an argument not against the hotels. It's an argument about allowing the people to come in. So, anyway, look, that judge knew exactly what he was doing. The Home Office were caught short, and the argument by the hotel owners didn't seem to be powerful enough. So he did, and actually, you'll be pleased to know that your fellow pugnacious guest actually knows that judge.
So it's your friend.
Well, Stephen, yes, I would regard him as a friend. We were on opposite sides of the. His room was opposite mine at Oxford. He was a sort of right-wing conservative in those days. Nice guy. But he's... anyway, I don't suppose that's got anything to do with it, and I don't suppose he has any politics anymore.
Judges left, anyway.
But, I mean, as you say, it potentially leaves the housing of migrants in well, it was in chaos to start with. I mean, it must be incredibly difficult for people in the Home Office to work out what to do with them all. And, there's a limit to how much you can use former army bases and things like that. And, I mean, I don't know enough about this case to know how much this can be now used as a precedent for people to say, well, this hotel is inappropriate as well. And as Kelvin says, does it mean that if people mount a protest outside other hotels, and a lot of these hotels are well known, are they going to have to be closed down? So where does it leave the government? I mean, it's all very well saying stopping people coming here, but attempts made by both governments to do that have failed so far.
Well, isn't there a deeper problem that actually we can't make the law work in this country, that ministers can't make decisions, that ministers can't stop the boats? Why? Because the lawyers stop them. They can't house the illegal immigrants. Why? Because the lawyers stop them. We've got ruled by lawyers who don't face the consequences, so they can come out with this judgment, and this one's welcome, but other ones aren't. But it's not the judges who then have to sort out what to do next.
Hold on one second. I would say it was the politicians, because the politicians don't want to carry out what I suspect is the beating heart of the nation. They don't want to. Now, there might be 1,000 good reasons why they vote in this way, but they don't want to turn the migrants back at France.
I think you're wrong now. I think that may have been the case in the past, but this government would desperately
they'd like to solve it, but they're not
resolve
prepared.
it and stop them coming.
Yes, I agree. They would like to, but they're not prepared. They are not prepared to pass the tough law which says, actually, we are going to actually turn them back, regardless of the consequences with our French neighbours. They're not prepared to say that.
In some of the cases, in many cases, turning them back is impractical. If you look at the main countries that people are coming from right now, from memory, what are they? There's Iran. No, originally. Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Afghanistan, and I can't remember the other one, but they're all places where actually you can't just sort of put them all on a plane and land in those countries.
But we don't know whether they come from any of those places anyway, do we? Because they all destroy their passports. They're all undocumented.
Well, that will be true in some cases. But I think
the fundamental on this is that I don't care where they come from. They're not coming here. That is my argument, right?
Well, you cannot enforce that policy unless you can have machine guns on every cliff on the South Wall all around the country.
I would absolutely. I think we've reached the point. I think we've reached the point where something of a dramatic nature should be done, since we have had politicians of various colours in our country
who have done hypocrisy in your position, and I suspect in Jacob's as well, in that if you lived in Iran or Afghanistan, if either of you, and you were a young man and you were looking to the future and you were thinking, I'm going nowhere here, I can't say what I think, you would want to escape to the West.
I don't think they're not coming here for free speech. They're not coming here in order to be involved with Apple.
In some cases they are. Or they're coming here because gay people are persecuted.
They are economic migrants, right, by and large, and we now have a refugee system in the world which makes it unreasonable.
Economic migrants may simply mean that they just want to better themselves. I mean, Michael Heseltine made this point very well in a debate at the Oxford Union a couple of years ago. He said, if I was a young man in Somalia or wherever, a young man like I was, I would want to come to Britain.
But Michael,
and that is the truth of it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. That doesn't make it legal, and doesn't mean we should let them. Just because I want to do something doesn't mean that I should be entitled to do it.
We should be a little bit more sympathetic to their case.
Come on, we have been more than sympathetic.
Are many brilliant people who will be running extraordinary businesses. What?
The numbers are too great.
You know perfectly well from us discussing this so many times that I agree with you on that. We cannot cope with the numbers right now, and this case isn't going to make that any easier.
So how would you deal with that? Since you reject my idea of actually forcing them back, how would you deal with it?
I don't know any more than you do. One policy I would introduce is
I do know, but you're not prepared to accept it.
I would introduce ID cards. I think that would
make a blind bit of difference.
I think it would make a deterrent. It would act as a deterrent to some of them.
I honestly, the idea when you think of what they can reproduce now through AI and the like, the idea that an ID card is going to be anything more than just a fig leaf on somebody's.
I think we're agreed, are we not? That there is no obvious solution to this.
I have a solution.
I think there's a solution.
I have a solution,
I don't think your solution is very practical.
You said
your solution is stopping them, but I don't see how you do it.
You stop them by deterrence. Look what Trump's done. Send them to El Salvador if necessary. Send them to Rwanda. I don't care.
And he ended up putting all sorts of innocent people into some of the most appalling prisons in the world, where violence is inflicted on those prisoners.
Do you want to stop it, or are you basically too squeamish to stop it? If you're too squeamish to stop it, tell the British people. But if we're going to stop it, we've got to be tough about it.
Well, I agree we've got to be tough. But I also think we have to be sympathetic to some of the people coming here, to most of the people coming here, actually.
On an individual basis, I don't deny that.
And we should stop talking in the kind of language that stirs up hatred against foreigners or people of a different colour of skin.
I haven't got any hatred. I just don't want them here. I don't even know them. I don't know them. I don't dislike them.
It doesn't sound like you've got any sympathy for them.
I haven't. No.
Hold your horses, because this is really exciting. We've got a statement from the Border Security Minister, the government's little ray of sunshine, Dame Angela Eagle, who has said the government inherited a broken asylum system. At the peak, there were over 400 hotels open. We will continue working with local authorities and communities to address legitimate concerns. Our work continues to close all asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament. We will carefully consider this judgment. As this matter remains subject to ongoing, dreadful word, legal proceedings, it would be inappropriate, another dreadful word, to comment further at this stage. Well, thank you to Dame Angela. She's welcome to come on the programme and use better English if she likes. But thank you also to my panel. In a moment, the one and only Rachel Reeves wants more of your money under the guise of tax cuts, this time by replacing one property tax with another. The problem with this socialist government is it's rapidly running out of other people's money.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're thinking of heading further afield for a holiday, well, you can expect some thunderstorms across the south of France, the Alps, northern Italy. Breezy for Portugal, extending into Madeira and the Canaries, that breeze. Across much of Iberia, it's fine, but towards the north into Andorra, the south of France, more especially northern Italy and the Alps, some very heavy and lively thunderstorms are expected. Plenty of sunshine, meanwhile, for Greece. Temperatures back closer to average following the heatwave last week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Good evening. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, overall a sunnier day. Yes, still starting fairly grey for many of us, and certainly by tomorrow evening you'll notice a cooler, fresher feel. That's because a cold front is slipping south. We've had this weather front across the far southwest today. It's been providing some fairly heavy showers through parts of Devon and Cornwall and the Channel Islands. They're all kind of fading away through this evening, however, so most places becoming dry. The cloud thick enough over the Midlands and eastern England for maybe a little bit of drizzle here and there. The cloud breaking across Scotland, some clearer spells coming in here, with thicker clouds still persisting over England and Wales. So still quite a warm night, but it will be turning cooler, particularly by tomorrow night across the south. As we go through tonight, as I said, the cloud breaking up across Scotland, so generally a sunnier day to come here. Still fairly cloudy at times around the east coast, and should also be a brighter day generally across Northern Ireland. Again, a bit of cloud early on, but it should be breaking up. It'll take a little longer for the cloud to break up across England and Wales, so again, for that journey to work in the morning, it may be a little bit drab, but again, not much rain around. Apart from the odd little bit of drizzle here and there, most places will again have a dry day. And look at this, the cloud tends to break up as we go through the morning. So Northern England, much of Wales, the Midlands, should turn sunnier by lunchtime. May take a little longer for the sun to come out across the south of England, but even here I'm hopeful it will do by the middle of the afternoon. Temperatures about average for the time of year, feeling fresh again on those North Sea coasts with a brisk wind, but in the sunshine elsewhere, feeling pleasant enough. Temperatures dropping sharply though through the evening, and it will be a chilly start to Thursday. Again, many places dry and bright with some spells of sunshine, just a bit more cloud bubbling up as we go through the day. But generally a fine day to come on Thursday too, and the fine weather set to persist really even into the weekend. A lot of dry weather and turning just a touch warmer as well, although the mornings will still be chilly.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Well, you're watching State of the Nation, and I had some Mel Moggs on baton disease. Sue says it's absolutely mind-boggling. Who on earth makes these decisions? And Catherine says the ones that make these decisions are certainly making very dangerous, wrong ones. And then on the borders issue and asylum seekers, Phil says, sympathetic, I've no sympathy left, and neither have my brothers and sisters of this once great nation. Rachel Reeves says she wants to cut your taxes, but in reality, the Chancellor seems to be planning to take more of your money. Reports today say the Chancellor is drawing up plans to scrap council tax and stamp duty and replace them with a costly new proportional property tax that would hammer family homes. This is on top of inheritance tax raids and punishing levies driving wealth and investment out of Britain. As the age-old saying goes,
and socialist governments traditionally do make a financial mess. They always run out of other people's money. It's quite a characteristic of them.
There you go. The problem with this socialist government is simple. They're running out of other people's, that's your money, and they want more of it in every way. Well, I'm now joined by the socialist commentator Curtis Daly. Curtis, thank you very much for joining me. How do you think this plan would work? What is it being briefed that Rachel Reeves is trying to achieve?
I'm actually not sure. It's a strange one. I'm not particularly in favour of this policy because she's looking at, I mean, when I looked at the report of this, she wants to increase taxes on property that's £500,000 or more. Now, to be fair, £500,000 sounds like a lot of money, but we know the astronomical prices of housing these days. It's actually not, especially if you live in London. So the point of the tax system isn't, I mean, the myth here is that it funds public services, but really it's about an incentive structure. Now, there are people who might buy their first home, a couple buy their first home, could be in London, and it's worth £500,000. I don't think we should necessarily be penalising these people. We should be looking at wealth taxes on the super rich. I'm talking about the multimillionaires and billionaires, but there's a reason why Rachel Reeves won't do it. And it's the same reason why I don't think Reform will do it, or the Conservatives, is because massive corporate donors have funded these political parties. Now, corporate donors don't give to the Labour Party because they do it from the goodness of their heart. They want a return on investment. So they do not want Rachel Reeves instituting a wealth tax on the multimillionaires and billionaires, but they're looking at what you might say the middle class. And I don't think this is a good policy. It's not even a redistributive policy. It's not like this money is going to go to poor incomes or public services because it's going to this £50 billion black hole. She's made a series of decisions which is so unpopular with the country. Last year, she decided to go after pensioners. And she went after disabled people and refuses to scrap the two-child benefit cap, which is keeping hundreds of thousands of children in poverty. And this time she's looking at menial taxes. Now, if this was taxes on second, third or fourth properties, I'd be with her because I think we should be taxing assets where people make a passive income off those assets. But it looks like these are going to be on potential homes that people live in, and that's a big problem.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. I mean, I agree with you that a wealth tax wouldn't come in, but I think it's for different reasons, because it wouldn't actually work, because the people who would pay it would simply leave if it came in as proposed. What I think is really interesting and really important is your point that the taxes have to fall on the middle-income people. And that's always true, because they're the ones who can't leave, who have least ability to not take their income or whatever it is to arrange their affairs to minimise taxation. And that's the problem this government faces, is that actually the people it's always going to hit the most are people it wants to vote for it. And that isn't ultimately sustainable.
No, I mean, historically, first of all, I disagree with your characterisation that wealthy people leave. We find that that's actually not the case. I mean, patriotic millionaires and tax justice debunks that myth, but we can talk about that in a second. But historically, the Labour Party have looked at income taxes, right? And I'm not necessarily opposed to increasing income taxes on the very richest, right? Although maybe not the middle class. The Labour Party historically hasn't done that. It's once again, it's because they don't want to introduce a proper wealth tax, because it really goes to the heart of the issue. I can't stress enough that we should be incentivizing those who want to buy a house. I mean, in 10, 20, 30 years' time, we could have lower than 50% home ownership. It's going down. We need to be taxing assets that's been hoarded. A really good example of this, actually, is in coastal homes. A wealth tax there, or taxes on second and third homes, actually saw a fall in house prices, because those that were using using property and assets to make a profit rather than live in it, felt like the taxes were quite high, that they didn't think it was worth it, and they sold it. And for me, that's a very good thing, because that means there's more houses in the market, and it helps first-time buyers, for example. But we need to be looking at those who draw a passive income by just using assets to get even richer. And once again, Rachel Reeves, and I don't suspect any government will do that, not because multimillionaires will leave, I think that's a myth, it's because the same people that fund these political parties won't do it. And ultimately, it either goes on poor people, disabled people, unemployed people, or middle-class people.
All right, Curtis, thank you very much for your very interesting thoughts. I'm now going to go to my panel, and I'm going to go to Michael Crick first, come to Calvin Mackenzie in a moment, because actually I thought what Curtis was saying was really interesting and expressed a truth that politicians normally shy away from, and that is that the reality of taxation is that it always has to fall on a middle section. Those who are poor effectively don't pay, or they get it back in handouts. Those who are very rich can rearrange their affairs and leave if it becomes too onerous. But that these people in the middle are the ones you need to vote for you, and that Rachel Reeves cannot square this circle.
Yes, and mind you, not everybody leaves. You're quite a wealthy man, and I don't suppose you'll ever leave, no matter how high the taxes are.
But the calculations, it was in Dan Hannon's article in the Mail today, that I think if the richest 15 people left, you lose about half the wealth tax. Not quite that much. But
it is. I mean, I think that it's great news that Rachel Reeves is thinking about this, and that other people are thinking about this, because there are lots of problems, particularly with council tax right now. The valuations haven't changed since it was brought in way back in 1991, which is ridiculous. That's 34 years ago, and a lot of properties have gone up hugely since then. And there are, a house in Blackpool will be raising a lot more than a similar house in Kensington, and there's all sorts of unfairnesses, and that could be resolved. And this whole debate about a wealth tax, the trouble is that there are all sorts of kinds of wealth that it'd be almost impossible to assess. How do you assess my stamp collection or whatever? Whereas property, it's relatively easy. You can see the size of a property quite easily. You can assess how much it's worth quite quickly. You can look at how much it last sold for. So there's lots to explore here. The danger is, of course, with bringing any tax in, is the unforeseen consequences, which this government is not very good at.
Well, Calvin, let me bring you in, because everyone recognises, right the way back to domestic rates, that property taxes are very unpopular. But attempts to change them are catastrophic. If I remember rightly, Ted Heath tried to change them, and that didn't work. Margaret Thatcher tried, and that led to her downfall.
Yeah, nice bit of poll taxing.
Really risky territory.
Yes, and she'd be mad to do it. And the middle classes are really on their beam end right now. Inheritance tax being mooted. I think that's dead. Wealth tax, that's been killed. And I would hope that this doesn't happen either. And anyway, when it would happen, would look as though it would happen towards either the end or after. They are not going to get re-elected. So at least we know that's as dead as a doornail. However, I am nobody seems to care. The middle classes actually are the backbone of the nation. I like people who cut their lawns, actually, on Sunday. I like people who wash their cars. I like people who watch cricket matches, right? None of those have had a voice. Actually, they haven't actually had a voice since GBNews turned up. Now GBNews is here. At least some of what they think is now being heard. I guarantee to you this would be an electoral disaster. So in some ways, I'm in favour of it, because the most enormous blow-up on it would leave, to my certainty, with Corbyn doing rather well, I can see them getting about 4 seats in the next general election, the biggest blowout in political history, and that would cheer me up.
Nonetheless, there are what we might call the upper middle classes who own some very valuable properties on which they pay very little tax. And the potential for paying tax
they bought the places. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with just buying stuff and it happens to go up in value?
The government is desperately short of money. The government is desperately short of money.
Why don't we cut the benefits?
But hold on. But until they move, and as soon as they move, they're paying whacking stamp duties. And the stamp duty is now a real disincentive to moving
under
house.
this scheme, that will be changed. But it's not clear to me whether this is going to be an annual levy on properties over $500,000 or a levy at the when the property is ultimately sold.
Well,
Another benefit could be actually a sort of nudge to older people who are living in houses that are too big for them, and that would actually help.
Are you in that position?
He's not that old.
It may not be long.
The young crick. Anyway, all you need to know is that GB News is the voice of the squeezed people in this country. We're on your side. In a moment, US officials are claiming the UK government, His Majesty's government, has backtracked on its backdoor security mandate on Apple products. Is this a victory for privacy? Oh, and how do you prefer to be dressed when you go on holiday?
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word. From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
American officials have said that the UK has withdrawn a controversial demand under the Investigatory Powers Act that would have forced Apple to create a backdoor into its devices under the guise of security. The US Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, said in a post on Twitter that the UK has dropped the instruction warning it would have enabled access to the protected encrypted data of American citizens and encroached on our civil liberties. Reports say Apple has not yet been formally contacted by either the US or UK governments. But should this be true, what does it mean for our privacy and civil liberties? Well, I'm joined now by the senior reporter at Guido Fawkes, Ellie Wheatley. Ellie, thank you very much for coming in. This seems quite an embarrassment for the government that's had to climb down in face of American pressure. But His Majesty's subjects, British citizens, are still going to face this potential intrusion.
Exactly. So not only is this humiliating for Labour, but it also shows the power that the US administration has. So what Cooper essentially wanted to do was to force Apple to allow access, the UK government access into iPhone users' encrypted files globally, and think in order to investigate criminals, right? Sounds very brilliant, but, you know, like all of these socialist ideals, it fast becomes a slippery slope. So although the UK government doesn't comment on these issues, obviously the US officials have said that they have U-turned on this. However, it still remains to be seen that the UK iPhone users have this order still in place. And back in February, Apple withdrew its advanced data protection services for UK users to avoid having to install this backdoor, and that's still in effect. So the fight still goes on for the UK iPhone users.
Yes, because I tried this afternoon to see if I could get it to work on my Apple telephone, and it's still not available, so it hasn't come back. Do you think it's likely to come back?
I don't know, because the thing is with the US, obviously civil liberties is highly important for them. So whether or not the US administration, the Trump administration, is satisfied that it's not impacting their users, and, you know, the UK, obviously, JD Vance, Trump have voiced serious concerns over these issues, whether or not they'll be happy with, actually, it doesn't impact us anymore, it's okay.
Is there a way around it for English users? I mean, can we go on holiday to the United States and install it, and then does it stay in? Can we use virtual private networks to do it?
Yes, well, VPNs, Guido, we definitely encourage VPNs to sort of get around this Snooper Cooper, we call her.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you could buy an iPhone abroad and then use a VPN, that might work. I haven't necessarily looked into it myself, but maybe that would happen. Because the thing is that this is the government spying on your photos and your videos. I mean, it's totally Orwellian.
Yes, indeed. Well, if you think of a way of getting around it, I hope you will put it on Guido and then come back on.
Absolutely, we'll look into it.
And tell viewers of GB News how to get round the government spying on you. Now, politicians on holiday has long been an object of intrigue for the media. Newspapers love getting hold of prime ministers in their swimming trunks on the beach. Today, a piece in The Times took the recent snaps of Boris Johnson and the French President Emmanuel Macron and decided to use it as a springboard into an etiquette guide for men on their holidays, including no social media and avoiding football kits, something I've never found too difficult. Watchers of Discovery Plus will have noted my daughter Mary's analysis of my own holiday wardrobe, but can you remember it? Which one of these photographs is the real Jacob Rees-Mogg? Is it this one, a nice walk on the beach with a little dog? Or could it be this one? This is just the sort of type of swimwear that I would like and was very fashionable in the late 19th century and into the Edwardian period. Or, I often like to say yes. The man from Del Monte, he says yes. So which do you think it is? Which one do you think I would wear when I was abroad on holiday in foreign parts? Well, I'll have to confess, it is the man from Del Monte look that I model myself on. Frankly, my holiday attire doesn't deviate too much from what I wear when I'm at work. The one change is that it's a single-breasted suit rather than a double-breasted one, for which solecism, I hope, viewers will forgive me, particularly next week when I'm going to be on semi-holiday broadcasting from Somerset. GB News will be coming live from God's own county, but I'm afraid I will be wearing proper clothes as a sign of respect to my illustrious viewers and listeners. So that's all from me. Up next, it's the one and only Patrick Christie's. Patrick, what do you wear on your holidays, and will you be holidaying at Weston-super-Mare this year?
Well, I have holidayed at Weston-super-Mare, and it's absolutely fantastic. I would recommend it. Absolutely everybody does. It comes to what I wear on my holidays. Well, not a lot, Jacob, but we'll leave that to the imagination. Right, one story in town. I've literally just, about 5 minutes ago, got back from Epping. A seismic victory for the people of Epping, but also for the people of Britain. They've taken the government to court, and they've won. They are going to get that migrant hotel closed, but the battle is not over. If the government thinks that they can palm those people off by shoving them in HMOs, they've got another thing coming. This is just the start. I've got it all on my show tonight. Stay tuned.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within.
Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Good evening. Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Tomorrow, overall a sunnier day. Yes, still starting fairly grey for many of us, and certainly by tomorrow evening you'll notice a cooler, fresher feel. That's because a cold front is slipping south. We've had this weather front across the far southwest today. It's been providing some fairly heavy showers through parts of Devon and Cornwall and the Channel Islands. They're all kind of fading away through this evening, however, so most places becoming dry. The cloud thick enough over the Midlands and eastern England for maybe a little bit of drizzle here and there. The cloud breaking across Scotland, some clearer spells coming in here, with thicker clouds still persisting over England and Wales. So still quite a warm night, but it will be turning cooler, particularly by tomorrow night across the south. As we go through tonight, as I said, the cloud breaking up across Scotland, so generally a sunnier day to come here. Still fairly cloudy at times around the east coast, and should also be a brighter day generally across Northern Ireland. Again, a bit of cloud early on, but it should be breaking up. It'll take a little longer for the cloud to break up across England and Wales, so again, for that journey to work in the morning, it may be a little bit drab, but again, not much rain around. Apart from the odd little bit of drizzle here and there, most places will again have a dry day. And look at this, the cloud tends to break up as we go through the morning. So Northern England, much of Wales, the Midlands should turn sunnier by lunchtime. May take a little longer for the sun to come out across the south of England, but even here I'm hopeful it will do by the middle of the afternoon. Temperatures about average for the time of year, feeling fresh again on those North Sea coasts with a brisk wind, but in the sunshine elsewhere, feeling pleasant enough. Temperatures dropping sharply though through the evening, and it will be a chilly start to Thursday. Again, many places dry and bright with some spells of sunshine, just a bit more cloud bubbling up as we go through the day. But generally a fine day to come on Thursday too, and the fine weather set to persist really even into the weekend. A lot of dry weather and turning just a touch warmer as well, although the mornings will still be chilly.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
What does it feel